I was 38 years old when my dad died. And I remember thinking at the time that Mom was handling this so well through those days leading up to the funeral and through the funeral. You know, she was a woman of deep faith, and she was just handling it very well. And after the funeral, my brother and I said, you know, Mom, we'll come back in about a week because there's probably going to be some paperwork from insurance and the such that Dad had talked to us about that maybe you won't be familiar with. And if there's anything else, just set it to the side and we'll help you work through it. And off we went. Well, we came back in a week, and Mom seemed just, a little bit out of sorts, and we went in and small talked first, and we noticed, we sat down at the kitchen table, and here's quite a large stack of mail and bills and other things. And she said, yeah, we need to go through this. I don't know, I don't really get it all. I'm kind of frustrated with it. She said, Dad used to take care of all this paperwork. He took care of all the financial stuff. He never really told me anything about this stuff. She said, I am so mad at him. And we said, it'll be okay, Mom. We'll help you through this. We'll walk you through this. We'll come back, whatever you might need. And you're smart. You'll get it. It'll be okay. And we worked through those things. And my brother and I had looked at each other when she did that because it was so out of character for her. And we knew she's not really mad that Dad didn't go over the financial stuff with her. She was grieving because he was gone. She missed him. She missed him terribly. And that came back to my mind when I read this gospel. And I thought, poor Thomas, he gets kind of a bum rap with, doubting Thomas. I wonder maybe if Thomas was just in deep grief. He had devoted 3 years of his life to this guy. In that 3 years, he got really close. He loved Jesus. And then, violently, Jesus is pulled out of his life. He's killed. He's buried. And then to add insult to injury, some women say, after he was buried, we've seen him. And then two disciples who were on the road to Emmaus said, we've seen him. And then his brother apostle said, we've seen him. And the pain must have been intense because he said, what about me? He was probably thinking, what about me? What did I do wrong? Don't you love me? And he blurts out, I will not believe unless I see it for myself. And then a week later, they're in the upper room, and this time Thomas is with them, and there's the Lord. And he says, touch me, feel me, believe. And he expresses the deepest faith of all, my Lord and my God. And then they lived the faith, he and the apostles. In fact, his doubt or his grief went to maybe one of the greatest missions of all, because it's said that he went farther than all of the other apostles. He ended up in India proclaiming the Lord. How wonderful that he could overcome the grief. Sometimes we are Thomas with doubt. But there is another piece to this gospel, I think, another lesson to be learned. Because while there's so much focus on Thomas, notice that he was there the next time. The apostles, it doesn't say that, hey, we chastised him, we said you should believe us because we saw it. You got to believe us. If you don't believe it, get out of here. If you can't believe, just leave. Nope, doesn't say any of that. It looks like they were real supportive of him. Looks like they kept the door open. In fact, he was there the second time when the Lord came. He was in the upper room. They had not abandoned him. They were there during this difficult time for him. And when the Lord came back to strengthen again the apostles, that he was really resurrected and he had a mission for them, Thomas was there that time. And off they went. Sometimes we are Thomas. In the gospel and in the second reading, how beautiful that the Lord speaks directly to you and me. Did you notice he did? He spoke to you and he spoke to me. He said, "Blessed are those who have not seen, but believe." Because the apostles, through their work and their preaching and their spreading of the good news, also wrote the Gospels and the letters, and they tell us about him. And in fact, those guys had such deep faith and such surety that all but one ended up dying a martyr's death. You don't die a martyr's death unless you are so sure. And yet sometimes in the traumas and travails and difficulties of life, we're Thomas. We get caught, surprised, hurt, and we might say, "Lord, where are you? Why did you do this to me? You could have prevented this. I am so hurt. I am so angry at you." And that's where the lesson of the apostles comes in. Because while sometime in our life we will be Thomas, more often I think we are called to be those apostles who do not abandon, who do not go away, who don't chastise, who don't tell somebody how they should feel. They're there to comfort. They're there to help, to support, to lift a little bit of the pain during this grief journey, so that although they might not see Christ like the apostles did, they might see Christ in us. Blessed are those who have not seen but believe. And more so, blessed are those who are Christ to others.